It started as a story of trust and friendship between a man and a magnificent orca whale named Nakoa. But what unfolded on that fateful day was not just a tragic accident. It was the heartbreaking result of years of ignored warnings, systemic neglect, and the cruel captivity of wild animals. Human entertainment. Sam Collins was just 28 years old when he began his career at Ocean Dome Marine Park in San Diego in 2016. Far from being a typical rookie, Sam was passionate, dedicated, and deeply connected to the animals he cared for. His colleagues saw him as the heart of the team, the guy who stayed late to tend to the orcas, volunteered for early shifts, and personally knew every whale by name. Among all the orcas at Ocean Dome, one stood out, Nakoa, a massive jet-black male who was over 20 feet long and weighed nearly 6 tons. Captured as a baby off the coast of Iceland in 2001, Nakoa had spent more than 2 decades confined in concrete tanks, far from the wild ocean he was born into. Nakoa was known for being temperamental and unpredictable, often avoided by other trainers, but Sam believed Nakoa was misunderstood. To him, the orca wasn't dangerous by nature, but was reacting to decades of trauma, isolation, and captivity. Sam spent hours with Nakoa, learning his moods, developing unique signals, and building a bond that captivated audiences. Together, they became the park's main attraction, performing breathtaking stunts that amazed spectators and created the illusion of a harmonious human-animal connection. But beneath the surface, things were far from perfect. Nakoa's life had been one of confinement and suffering. Taken from his family pod as a calf during a controversial capture operation, he never saw his mother again. His years in captivity were marked by poor water quality that caused sores, damaged teeth from gnawing on steel gates, and long hours floating motionless, a behavior called logging, indicating extreme psychological distress. Over the years, Nakoa was involved in multiple troubling incidents. In 2011, a trainer narrowly escaped injury after being pulled underwater. In 2014, the orca refused to perform, visibly agitated for over 10 minutes. Internal reports warned that Nakoa was unpredictable, high risk, and difficult, yet the park kept him as their star attraction. Money and ticket sales were prioritized over safety and animal welfare. Rumors circulated among staff that Nakoa was refusing food and ignoring cues, signs of worsening mental and physical health. Veteran trainers grew uneasy, some quit, and others requested reassignment. Complaints were reportedly filed but met with generic responses or ignored entirely. In early July 2023, just 6 weeks before the tragedy, Nakoa lunged during a routine feeding, snapping his jaws inches from a junior trainer's arm. It was dismissed as a fluke, but the warning signs grew harder to ignore. Nakoa began ignoring basic commands, slapping his tail violently against the tank walls, sometimes refusing to eat until late in the evening. A brief internal memo advised limiting close contact with Nakoa and staying on stage platforms unless authorized. However, Sam never received this memo. Some say he was kept in the dark. Others believe he chose to trust the bond they had built, unwilling to accept the reality of the orca's deteriorating condition. On a scorching summer afternoon, Ocean Dome was packed with over 800 spectators, many families eager for the day's highlight, the 2:15 p.m. Orca show. Sam stood on the platform, confident and ready. The crowd cheered as Nakoa prepared for the rocket hop, a stunt where the orca would launch Sam into the air. The act began as usual, but then something snapped. Instead of gently pushing Sam as rehearsed, Nakoa slammed into him with brutal force. Sam was knocked sideways in the water. The crowd thought it was part of the show, but the trainers knew it wasn't. Before Sam could signal a reset, Nakoa clamped his jaws around Sam's torso and dragged him underwater. Panic erupted. Nakoa surfaced with Sam still in his grip, thrashing violently. The water turned red with blood. Lifeguards and medics rushed in. Trainers threw distraction devices and desperately tried to wedge a pole between the orca's teeth, but nothing worked. 7 agonizing minutes later, Sam was freed. His body was limp, his wetsuit shredded. Paramedics began CPR, but it was too late. At 2:41 p.m., Sam Collins was pronounced dead. The park immediately shut down for the day, but the questions and outrage had just begun. Media outlets picked up the story. Hashtags demanding justice for Sam and calls to ban marine parks trended worldwide. Ocean Dome's official statement was cold and vague, no mention of Nakoa, no acknowledgement of past warnings, no accountability. Staff were ordered to stay silent, internal safety reports disappeared, and the show schedule was erased from the website. Nakoa vanished from public view overnight, removed from the show roster without explanation. Rumors spread that he was moved to a private tank or undergoing retraining. The park refused to comment. Sam's death was not an isolated incident. It echoed a tragic pattern repeated across marine parks worldwide. In 2010, SeaWorld trainer Dawn Brancho was killed by an orca named Tilikum, who had been linked to 2 previous deaths. In 2009, Alexis Martinez was killed by an orca in the Canary Islands after weeks of aggression that went unaddressed. In the 1990s, trainer Ken Peters was dragged underwater by an orca named Kasatka at SeaWorld San Diego, but survived. Behind these incidents is a stark truth. Captive orcas are apex predators with immense power and complex emotions. Their captivity, confined to small tanks, deprived of family, and forced into repetitive performances, causes severe mental and physical breakdowns. In the wild, orcas swim up to 100 miles a day, live in tightly bonded family pods, communicate with complex dialects, mourn their dead, and form lifelong relationships. In captivity, they swim in endless circles, log for hours motionless at the surface, grind their teeth to stumps, suffer from chronic infections, and develop collapsed dorsal fins, a sign of poor health that occurs in less than 1% of wild orcas, but over 90% of captive ones. Sam Collins' story is a wake-up call. It exposes a system built on profit, silence, and denial. It demands we rethink the morality of confining such intelligent, emotional beings for entertainment. The legacy of harm isn't just to the orcas, it is to the people who care for them, to families who lose loved ones, and to a society that chooses spectacle over empathy. Until marine parks change their practices, improve safety, and prioritize animal welfare over profit, the cycle of tragedy will continue. This story may be one of loss and heartbreak, but it also carries hope. Hope that awareness grows, that voices demanding freedom for captive orcas become impossible to ignore, and that someday these majestic creatures can swim free in their natural home once again. If you enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video with a friend. See you in the next video.